Hello everybody, this is Fernando for the latest Cryptids and Monsters video. Alright, let's go ahead and let's talk about another cryptid here. This one yet again, based on one of your newer suggestions. This one an interesting cryptid in the sense of what it feasts on. It literally only eats one single animal out there in this world. At least that's what it seems like, especially because of its particular name. But yes, when I was reading this information, it was amazing to realize all this stuff just pretty much sums up one single aspect regarding this creature. And what's also interesting is the fact that it could be a long lost descendant of, in this case, another mammal, one of the largest mammals that existed on Earth. So maybe, just maybe, this creature is still out there, but in the form of this particular cryptid. You're looking at it now. I'm sure you've seen pictures of it before. If you've been to museums or if you've been to other types of exhibits, it's known as the Yukon Beaver Eater. Strange name, right? But it also goes by another name, the Saytoechin. Not exactly sure why it goes by that other name too, but that's its other particular name as well. But yes, let's go ahead and let's talk about all the interesting information associated with this Yukon Beaver Eater. Well, if you're wondering why it's called the Yukon Beaver Eater, you pretty much guessed it already. It feasts on one single animal, and that seems to be the beaver itself. Who knows, this creature may also be a herbivore, considering the descendant that it's supposed to come from. But at least reading the information associated with this cryptid, I didn't really see anything about it. But yes, it's known as the Yukon Beaver Eater because it eats beavers. It basically traps them and then seizes them afterward. But first, let's talk about its characteristics. This thing is not tiny. It's pretty big. In fact, it's known as being bigger than your average sized grizzly bear today. So grizzly bears are already huge on their own. Imagine, like, you see one just walking on all fours. It's big. And then imagine it standing upright, even bigger. But this thing is even larger than that in of itself. In fact, it's been known to be over 8, maybe 9 feet high, and its girth, its mass, is also larger than that of a grizzly bear. So definitely something that is intimidating to look at. When I was reading this information, I could totally imagine the sound, the thumps that this creature makes as, let's say, it moves throughout the forests. And then as far as its other characteristics, it has, of course, like a shaggy, very long coat. It has these hands, if you call them that looks just like a sloth's almost, where they can use them to grip things, presumably also go up trees, although considering how big this thing is and how much it weighs, it may not do that too often. I don't know exactly, but it does have those very long claws on them for gripping. And then with its height, it can reach higher areas too, that it uses to either peer or maybe also go on the hunt when it's trying to capture certain creatures. Speaking of which, let's talk about that now. Yes, indeed, it's known as the Yukon Beaver Eater because of its specialty. It loves hunting beaver and it loves eating beaver as well. Its main tactic is this: it'll find those lodges or areas that beavers set up for themselves. I guess it knows what to look for, and it knows where to find them, and then it'll ambush them. Like, it'll literally like tear it open. These beavers that are in there are just trapped, not necessarily like knowing what's going on, and but by then it's too little, too late. This thing will feast on them, almost like shooting fish in a barrel. Like, it'll literally just eat upon them, and then that's it. Maybe some of them might escape, who knows? But once it finds these lodges, then that's pretty much it. It's history for these beavers. So it's not necessarily a good thing if you're in that location as a beaver. But by the way, if you're wanting to wonder, where this thing is located at, hence the name, it's the Yukon, then that's where you'll have a good chance of running into this creature. In fact, up there in Canada, there's been another sighting associated with this creature. It was given by a person, Don Charlie, who stated that they contacted this British Columbia Scientific Cryptozoology Club. Who knew? There's one out there in Canada. But yes, they contacted them and then reported this sighting. So apparently there was a person who was named a violent Violet Johnny, and she was out there fishing with her husband along with her mother there by Tacton Lake, which you're looking at now. And there, that's when they saw, I guess it was towards the distance, some animal that was larger than a grizzly bear come out of the woods. And imagine a sight like that. You see something like this out there in the distance, it immediately just captures your attention. One of them already knew the history of this creature. It said it was a Saytoechin, like they already knew it by name, and that's when they obviously paid close attention to it as it turned, looked towards them, and then started coming towards them. Unknown if this creature was going to do like any kind of damage or any kind of harm. But by that point, they didn't care. Obviously, they panicked, and then they ran as far as they could. They got into their car, and then they took off. They even fired a few shots up into the air, not to harm the creature, but just to try to scare it away. But whether it did the trick or not, they were out there by that point, like they were burning rubber essentially. But yes, that was one of the most recent sightings associated with this creature. Other sightings also involve some of the natives that live within that location. In fact, it's been known that whenever the natives there were shown pictures of long lost creatures, they came across this one. Remember I was mentioning earlier how this thing may be a cousin, something that was just a descendant of a long lost creature. Yes, you're looking at it now. It's known as the Megatherium. I believe that's what it says, the Megatherium, otherwise known as the giant ground sloth. They immediately pointed to this thing. This thing shares many similarities to the Yukon Beaver Eater. Both are very large, both are very heavy as well. They both have those characteristic claws on them, the way they look, the way they act, the way they move as well. So it just makes sense that these natives looked at something like this and then pointed at it immediately, saying that yes, this is it, this is what they saw. So if there is truly, in this case, this Megatherium still out there, that's up for debate, because apparently they've been extinct since about 10,000 BC or so, or maybe 8,500 BC. So if some of them, or a clan of them, somehow still survived out there and they live in the Yukon area, that could explain this. Otherwise, this could just be another cryptid of its own, or another theory is that it is a beaver in of itself, but just much larger, something that was, I guess, a one-off, something that just for whatever reason grew much larger than your average beaver, and then that's what we see today. So that's yet another theory. But that's pretty much it. That's all the info associated with this Yukon Beaver Eater. Again, very, very particular when it comes to its diet. Just basically just eats those poor beavers and then lives out there in the Yukon, and it may just maybe be, in this case, a long lost descendant of this Megatherium. So if anyone has any more information, anybody out there from the north, the Canada, the Yukon area, that happens to know more tales, more experiences, more sightings, maybe even more encounters, please post those comments below. I was wondering too if there's going to be a chance, considering where that lake is, if anyone has been to that area and then happens to maybe know any more specific local sightings. That'd be really great to hear. I love hearing those. Those are the comments that I love replying on too, especially when someone posts their own local experience. That just definitely adds more credibility to everything associated with this cryptid. But yes, all right. Thank you so much, everybody. Take care. Bye.